a few familiar faces in the audience. Is this working? Okay. All right. Very good. I've been invited here to give a brief discussion about the DTV transition that's going to be happening in February. But I'm also here to answer any sort of questions you might have about the FCC and concerning amateur radio as well. I have a little PowerPoint that's been made up to that we go out to various groups and to discuss this. We've visited at least 43 different groups in the San Diego, Phoenix, Tucson area so far, trying to get the word out about what is DTV transition and how it's going to affect people. So to start with, in February, television will undergo a big change, as big a change as color television happened. Most full-power TV stations will change on February 17th to a digital-only format. Now, I'm not familiar with the TV stations here in Tucson, but I know that all of them, I believe, are going to a UHF channel.
Except for 9.
Except for Channel 9? Okay. The same way in San Diego, only one station is going to remain VHF. So everything is going to move to digital and change channels for the most part. Why is this happening? Analog spectrum is going to be reallocated. All this spectrum from channels 52 through 69 will no longer be available for television in the United States. It's going to be reallocated for public safety, and $20 billion have been already auctioned, and spectrum has been purchased by AT&T, Verizon, and all these other cell phone companies to expand not only cell phone service, but they're also planning broadband service. We will also have better service on the television dial. The digital signals will be far superior in quality, and each channel is capable not only having high definition, but will have at least 4 video streams. In the San Diego area, in the Los Angeles area we're from, we've been watching some of these stations, and a couple of stations have always run traffic on one of the video channels all day long. Another one had stock exchange. One local TV station was running 24-hour news. At night, most of the stations do go into the high definition mode, but during the daytime when the kids are watching cartoons or the soap operas on, the high definition isn't always necessary, so they break it up into the different video streams to cover people. The PBS station, they run Spanish language programming for children. So it is quite an advantage because each channel now can produce at least 4 video streams if so desired. What do you need to be ready? If you don't have a digital television already and you wish to continue to use your existing analog television, you may need to buy a converter box. Most of the stores now have them available. Walmart, Best Buy, and Circuit City are just a few of the stores that now have them. You may want to buy a digital set, or if you subscribe to cable, you may not need to worry, cable or satellite, because the cable companies are required to provide you an analog signal for at least another 3 years. For 3 years, or if they're going to go totally digital, they'll provide you a converter box anyway. Okay, the converter boxes are very small or can be fairly elaborate. Most will be in the range from $40 to $70. I know Walmart, we went by there today, they had one on display, a little RCA model, $50. And the government is going to provide anybody who requests 2 coupons administered through the NTIA. It's an agency of the Department of Commerce. 2 coupons good for $40. You fill out an application, go online, fill out their application, and they'll mail you back 2 look like gift cards. Take it to a retailer who's selling these boxes, you get $40 off. That's what part of the $20 billion of auctioning off that spectrum is paying for. Transition from analog to digital, not from analog to high definition. You don't need a high definition TV to continue watching the new digital channels. There are plenty of TV sets out there that are on the market right now that will give you a standard type of picture that you can use. It may, it won't be 52 inches big or give you the high clarity, but it will be just as good, or if not better, than the existing analog television. Let's see. All right. In this area, there are a few Class A television and low-power TV stations. These are usually very directed type of broadcasts. Many are in Spanish language or foreign languages, religious programmings, or whatever. And they are not required to change on February 17th of this year. They will be required sometime in the future. So if you do watch a lot of these low-power translators or Class A TV stations, you might want to consider buying a converter box that has what's called pass-through. In other words, if you're going to watch that, continue to watch an analog station, you just turn it off or hit a switch, and it will allow the analog signal to pass through. Again, it depends. In the more rural areas, like up in Alaska and places like that, where they have a lot of translators, this is a big problem, and they're trying to get as many pass-through converters available in that area. You can buy them online, but not many retail stores are selling them right now. Now, not locally yet, but they will be out soon. But most of the manufacturers are telling us that if you do buy a converter box and you do want to pass through, take it back once the pass-through device is out there, and they will give an exchange. This is what they're saying. Okay. Full power will continue to broadcast in analog until February 17th. Low power will continue beyond that date, and Congress will mandate eventually a cutoff time for them. Also, Congress is considering along the border areas maybe extending this time too, because there are Mexican stations that are still going to be in analog. There are a lot of people along the border area that do watch the American stations, and they won't be able to have access to converter boxes as easily as we do. So maybe in cities like El Paso, San Diego, whatever, may be extended, but that will be up to Congress too, and they're working on that right now. If you're a subscriber to satellite or cable, you don't have to worry right now. You contact your cable company, Cox Communications, and see exactly what they're planning to do. If they're going to go total media, total digital in the near future.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay, if that's the case, then everybody will have to have a box of some sort. And it will have an encrypted card or some sort of encryption to it.
They're laying the fiber now.
Okay. But the cable companies are required to give you an analog signal for at least 3 years. And if you have satellite, you have a converter box anyway. All satellites are digital systems anyway. Closed captioning, the pass-through, the converter boxes will allow the captioning information to go to pass through and provide that to you for those who are hearing impaired or need the captioning. We do have special publications on the captioning information. We can send that to anybody who wishes more information about that, or go to our website. We visit senior centers a lot, and this is a little quiz that these seniors really love. And some of them get really excited and try to answer every question. So, what is the date when full power broadcast stations are supposed to transition? Let's see. February 17, 2009. Additional digital broadcasting provides additional spectrum for public safety, opportunities to better quality TV, opportunities for more programming choices, or all of the above. All of the above. To be ready for DTV transition, your options are connect your analog TV to digital analog converter box, purchase TV with built-in digital tuner, subscribe to a paid service like cable or satellite, or any of the above. Any of the above. After February 17th, you will have to discard all your analog TVs. You got to, throw them in the trash. No. You can still watch your regular analog television, and in fact, a lot of people probably put them in the back bedroom or keep them in the camper or something like that, and so a converter box may be necessary. Each household may request up to 2 digital analog converter box coupons from NTIA. These coupons are worth $40 each. So the government's going to give you an $80 savings if you like. And to apply for the digital to analog converter boxes, visit, this is an NTIA site, www.dtv2009.gov. Call the number, apply by mail or apply by fax, or any of the above. Any of the above. In fact, for those who would like, I have the converter box applications hard form. Most people in the amateur community go online, but I do have the paper copies if you wish to mail in one. Digital to analog converter box will allow an analog TV to display digital broadcast. True or false? True. It will not only show you the main channel, it will give you the other channels as well. They usually label like channel 8-1, 8-2, or whatever. You must wait until February 17th to hook up your digital analog converter box. Are you kidding? My office assistant hooked it up immediately as we got one, and she just loves watching the local programs now in digital because there's no snow, there's no ghost. It's just a pure good signal. Now that is one thing about digital. You either will get a great picture or you will get no picture. So if you're interested in buying a new TV, you must buy an HD TV. Obviously false, because there are plenty of TVs on the market that are not fully high definition. Your current antenna provides good quality reception on the VHF and UHF channels with your analog TV. It should work for digital broadcast. True or false? The answer is true, but make sure it does work well on UHF, because most of these digital channels are UHF spectrum. And most digital signals are designed to give you the same coverage as the analog signal did. For information, we have a toll-free number with the FCC. Call 888-CALL-FCC. Any sort of consumer questions. If you want forums, want more information about digital television, there's always our website, www.fcc.gov or www.dtv.gov. And I think that's it. Any questions about digital television transition? February 17th, 2009. Yes?
Is there any encryption of signals being allocated? Or
the broadcasters can encrypt if they so wish. They may, let's say, have a sporting event or some sort of special event they wish to encrypt. The nightmare is trying to collect the fees and such for that. As a cable company will attest, that is not an easy job to do, is it?
No. I can't elaborate on that.
So broadcasting over the air, subscription television has never really been a big success. I've seen it done in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, but you really have to have a specialized niche here that people want programming. So yes, they can do it. The likelihood would be fairly small. Yes, sir.
I have two questions. One was, as you can tell, I researched the thing because I was going to buy a converter box, and I found a couple websites that tell you that all the converter boxes are not the same.
That's correct. And NTIA has a list on their website of all the converter boxes that are available now by manufacturer and so forth.
Yeah, I found some have some features and some haven't. So
Right.
pass-through was something I couldn't seem to find yet.
Right. There are pass-through ones. Most of them are on sale via the internet.
You can't use the coupon.
Yes, you can.
Oh, you can?
Sure.
Oh, okay. The other question, just in general, The cable is also going digital, but I guess the cable digital standard is a different digital standard than the TV digital standard.
Usually so. They have encryption of some sort. You could probably answer that much better than I can, depending on the tier that you're buying.
Yeah, I saw the advertising here. So.
Okay.
Cable companies down the street. Actually, I'll look into that for you. But I've worked. This is Cox Media, so it's the advertising division of Cox Communications. So.
But right now, if you were, so let's say go digital with Cox, you get a Cox digital converter box.
Some televisions, especially the high definition televisions, have a what they call a cable card.
Yes.
That's a decryption mode for each cable company.
Is there any TV out there that has all the stuff in there, so a company like Cox can be hooked up without any external boxes?
Yes. The televisions are on the market that you go to Cox and say, I've got an HD TV or whatever model it is. They'll give you the card and you drop it in and away you go. The only problem with that right now is you can only get one-way service. In other words, you can't get pay-per-view and interactive television, things like that. Right now, they're working on trying to improve that. But today's generation of cable cards is it will just decrypt and give you the whatever service you're buying. Yes, sir.
Do you have any information from the FCC's position for those people in fringe areas that buy converter boxes want to raise their antennas but are restricted because of covenants of homeowners associations?
There may be some exemptions made in the future, but right now there is none. The only exemption is for satellite service. Covenants and such cannot affect you from putting out an outside dish.
Do you know if that's even an issue that anybody's looking at?
Not right at the moment. Again, if you're in a fairly restrictive area, most people are on cable service anyway because they won't allow you an antenna anyway.
The ones I'm aware of are only over the air.
Okay. Again, first try it to see if you do get a signal. Many times you just pick up the digital signals with rabbit ears or just a simple antenna outside because it is designed to get the same kind of coverage as our analog. There will be spots where it may not work because the original TV station was on channel 2 and now they're on channel 30 or something like that. Again, when you go from one band to another, you may have problems. But I would think probably 90% won't have a problem. Right. On our website and on the NTI website, they talk about what you may be able to do to try to remedy any sort of problem you have with off the air. Again, it's very specific, very localized, and maybe even the ham radio community can assist people in trying to resolve what sort of problems they have. Yes, sir.
I'd like to answer the question. I live in a fringe area off the air, all I could get is channel 13, 93, something like that. Cable is not available, or was not available, or went to satellite, works fine. And I've got high definition on satellite.
Yes, sir.
As stations migrate from VHF to UHF, historically the FCC has recognized higher power requests.
Yes, sir. Some of these stations can get up to like almost 2 million watts ERP.
So they are going to compensate.
Oh, yes.
To try to maintain the same coverage.
Yes, it just depends on how much power bill that the individual television station wants to pay per month.
I work for the electric company.
Again, it's all has to be calculated on a local basis because each, the coverage here in Tucson is different than it is in the Midwest, where you have to build it on a 2,000-foot tower or something like that. Okay, yes, sir.
How about RFI susceptibility as far as the ham radio, like interfering with digital?
Well, just like since it's mostly UHF, the likelihood will be fairly small because it's further away from, channel 2, which is probably the worst 2 and 3.
Well, it's like 11 meters right now, right? I think in channel, right in the middle of one of the UHF channels. 2
Well,
meters. 2 meters.
Well, that's at 150. But again, the only problem with if you don't get a good signal or if you're getting a lot of error rate, You won't get a signal at all. I mean, it will be gone. You won't get little fuzzy lines or whatever, wavy lines in the TV signal. You won't get anything.
They won't hear your voice.
No.
If you get a signal, they won't.
Right. And that's assuming they're watching off the air, too. And let's face it, in a lot of communities, cable penetration can be as high as 80, 90%. San Diego, I mean, very few people have outside antennas because we have lots of hills and we have 3 or 4 television transmitter sites. You know, it's impossible to aim one antenna towards one. We have Mexico, Channel 6 is from Mexico, Mount Soledad and Mount San Miguel, and then a couple other minor locations as well. Any other DTV questions? Shall we shift gears to any other topic of the FCC anybody wants to discuss? Nah. Okay. Did anybody go to Dayton this year? Yay, I went out there too this year. That was fun.
Yes.
And Riley Hollingsworth will be retiring. His retirement party is June 25th. I assume he's leaving them like the 1st of July then. So there may be somebody new you'll have to argue with. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm originally from Central Illinois, and I went back, visit some family, and then during that time I went over to Dayton, and it was always fun. Yes, sir.
Question, back in the 70s, I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska. I remember the handheld there. And the guy who then was the chief engineer of the monitoring station at Grand Island, John McKinney, W08P, was a member of our club. And a couple of times he was able to allow us to come out to the monitoring station and use the Raycal equipment, beverage antennas and all of that. But they pretty much eliminated all of the monitoring stations. How does the monitoring effort today compared to the monitoring efforts that were going on back in the 70s and 80s, and how is it done now without all of these, you know, like one in Douglas, one in Chillicothe, Ohio, and one up in Springfield, Oregon, but those have all closed. So how does the enforcement effort?
Well, you're partially right. It is closed in that there are no FCC employees there. They're totally automated. There's DF system still at Douglas, Livermore, California, Ferndale, Washington, Canandaigua. It's always been a remote monitoring site, Grand Island, and it's all controlled either from Washington, D.C. at what we call our comm room, and we have a backup at Columbia, Maryland. It also used to be called Laurel, Maryland. And all these DF systems are automated. What they monitor is depending upon what the needs are. And, you know, they don't sit down tuning the dial all day long. They have specific tasks they look at. If there's amateur complaints from the Coast Guard or somebody like that.
Well, I know I spent a lot of time between commercial radio and commercial radio engineering, things like that. And I know it used to be, you know, things like overmodulation, splatter, and off frequency, things like the technical type stuff. Mm-hmm. The FCC did quite a job of. A few years ago, I was up in Anchorage, Alaska, and what I thought was kind of interesting. You know, the standard broadcast band goes from 540 to 1700 now. Every station in Anchorage, you could listen to the extent their first harmonic was below 1700. You could hear both their fundamental frequency and their harmonic. And
okay.
If you look at some of the stuff that's on the FCC website, it looks like most of their policing of like AM broadcast stations has to do with failure to keep their public inspection folder, fail to file their renew applications in a timely fashion. And you don't see as many technical violations, and yet it used to be every radio station had to have a full-time chief engineer. Now engineering is mostly contracted out, and it's only on an ad-visit basis. So I guess I'm just wondering, kind of again, trying to contrast the monitoring type effort for technical violations today versus...
Well, the technical violations are monitored if there's generally a complaint. If a broadcast station is causing interference to the 160 ham band The local office or the monitoring stations will try to figure out where it's coming from and deal with it. If another broadcaster is complaining about the guy down the road, or the guy doesn't change power at the proper time, these offices deal with it. In fact, we had up in northern Arizona a case where an AM station wasn't changing power at night. It was remaining omnidirectional and causing interference to a station in Reno.
Is that 780? KZM, in
There was a notice of apparent liability issued, and they paid the fine of $4,000. Yes.
is that Sedona?
Yeah. So we do the work. It's usually complaint driven, instead of just sitting there, tuning through the ham bands, tuning through the AM/FM band or whatever. Face it, there's a lot of electronics out there now. There's well over 1,500, 2,000 television stations and 3,000 or so AM/FM broadcast stations. It's a difficult task. Now the notices you were talking about, generally EAS broadcast stations are required to run tests for the emergency alert system. Some stations, fail to do that or maintain it properly. Tower lights are very important, hazards to air navigation. The public file, it's a requirement. It's in the, part of the Communications Act and everything. They're supposed to maintain this file to let the public know who they are, what they're doing. It isn't as rough as it used to be for the broadcasters, but they're also using a lot better equipment today. Most of the real old stuff's gone. Most of it's very, very stable, very doesn't overmodulate a lot. I can't say what's going up in Anchorage, Alaska, but in the South 48, it's working very well. Yes, ma'am.
We received our letter for Sprint broadband that it said that there wouldn't be any more microwave internet service that we had, and so it's closing in this area. It's said because the FCC was going to take that frequency and distribute it to something else. I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
Yes. Okay. The old the MDS channels, or MMDS it was called, these were television microwave signals at one time. Instructional fixed television, like the University of Arizona, could send out these microwave signals to the various local other campuses and such. But through the years, that has been changed, and they were using it for wireless service and other things. Now, Nextel, Sprint is it? They may have just, from a management standpoint, they decided not to, but I don't know of any sort of specific rule that they must vacate it.
Their letter said, FCC had reallocated the spectrum and that's no longer available.
Okay, maybe so, but there is spectrum available if they wish to apply for it. I don't know exactly,
I think they wanted out of the business.
Okay, it's probable. It's very probable. We're in an enforcement office. We don't get into the licensing. We don't get into which channel's allocated for what purpose.
If you drive by a house, it's a diamond-shaped flat antenna. That's
Pointed towards the Tucson Mountains.
right.
Okay.
Towards Tucson Mountains. Yeah.
Years ago, it was probably used to send the porno movies around, right? The old MDS service years ago in the 70s and 80s. Yes, sir. Well, it's starting to go digital. There's the iBox systems on AM, and then there's something very similar in FM. They call it high definition radio for FM services. Will Congress and the FCC finally say everybody must be digital for radio? It is very possible, but there's no move afoot right now to mandate it. Yes, sir.
Two questions. One is, when I lived in Southern California, we used to have something called San Patricio Rapido. I it was an oddball split, a bunch of people who used to go there. Is that still around, or?
Don't know. I don't get into how things are allocated. I know the frequency coordinators in Southern California are trying very diligently to get everything organized and make sure they don't cause interference. But how they're allocated to whomever, I don't know.
Okay. The other question
Yeah.
is they're going digital view in Tucson. Randy knows all about it.
Yeah, that's the. Is it the ICOM system?
Yeah, the D-Star. You
D-Star?
probably asked what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and I was going to ask how you guys. Go ahead.
Well, there's an issue that was talked about quite a bit at Dayton, and Riley didn't have an exact answer for it, but he gave kind of an ambiguous answer, which you'll probably do. But they're not classifying D-Star repeaters as repeaters. They're something else. And even though they are repeaters, but by the very definition of repeater, it's not being classified as such. Therefore, a lot of the allocations on the repeater frequencies are not available for D-Star. They're putting down, like ours, for instance, on 2 meters is 145, 115. They're putting them in areas like that. And around the country, though, they're finding a real problem fitting in those repeaters.
Right.
So they're spacing them 400.
Especially in the 2 meter band.
Especially in California.
Yeah.
But,
Now, again, I'm not really into that because I'm not in the allocations. I'm not, we only get involved when there's a problem. You got two repeater groups that are fighting tooth and nail over a given channel interference, and everybody's giving cat calls. We do get involved, but fortunately, that's very rare. The amateur community self-polices very well. There was a question in the back. Yes, sir.
Just wondering if there's any educational spectrum being reserved for in other words, for schools, colleges, universities, anything
In which radio service?
for television.
Oh, yes. The PBS stations that you see now have a digital channel. What is it? KGUN? Not KGUN, but KUAS. Yes, they've been running a digital. KUAT has been running a digital channel. Every TV station has an analog channel right now and a digital channel. Come February 17th, they turn off the analog channel and either stay on their digital channel or they move back. They move the digital to the original channel. There's very few stations doing that because it's very expensive. And yes, every community is allocated X number of channels based on its population, and so many are educational or non-commercial, however you want to define it. And it's been like that for years. Now, how you get a broadcast license for a commercial, it's now auction. In other words, if there's an allocation now available in Tucson, and let's say channel 55 or 51 is available, and somebody applies, and it goes up for auction. Who wants this channel? It depends on how much they want to pay for it now. Yes, sir.
Do you know if the issue between pay pause and amateur radio is going to resolve?
In the California area, Northern California, or that's where it's the worst right now, because a lot of UHF repeaters in the Sacramento, Marysville area had to either shut off or power down or move allocations. But yes, most of that's been pretty much successfully taken care of there. Elsewhere in the country, I really don't know. Yes, sir.
One other question you had mentioned in response to earlier, putting IBOC on the AM broadcast.
Yes.
When that first rolled out, it was just daytime, and then they allowed the stations to turn it on at night.
That's correct.
If you do listen to that, I mean, for example, 550 in Phoenix has it.
Yes.
And you can drive to Yuma, and Yuma has a station on 560. Until you get within about 20 miles of Yuma, you've got that IBOC hash just completely covering them up. Is there any further consideration?
That is between the broadcasters and the media bureau to decide, is this really the way we should go or not? But right now, all I can say is if they're operating according to their license, there have to be so many dB down and so many kilohertz away from the center. That's the best I can do. All I can do is measure and say, yes, they meet their license requirement or not. Is the best way to go? That's Media Bureau's decision. Yes, sir.
Yes, within the ham radio community and the general public, I wonder, how are we doing as far as interfering with the public? Are you receiving many complaints? Or?
No. Amateur radio is the least amount of problems. I guess I don't want to call it problems. The amount of attention that's given to from my office. In fact, we rely upon a lot of the amateurs to assist us at times. We have a pirate broadcast station or something. We know maybe we dealt with some people in the area before. We'll call them. Are you hearing the station? Is this thing for real or not? Things like that. It does take time to drive over here to Tucson. We do have remote receivers now. We've set up some throughout the area. We can actually listen via telephone line or internet in other major cities and along the border area. But it does take time and effort to get over here, and at $4.50 a gallon in San Diego right now, it gets expensive in a hurry.
Yes.
It'd be cheaper going home.
Well, at least the first tank, yes.
So you cross the California border.
Well, it's not cheap in Phoenix either. It was about over $4 there. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I have an interesting question. At least it's interesting to me.
Let's hope so.
Occasionally, well, maybe even more than occasionally, we hear a lot of Spanish language conversation on our repeaters.
Yes.
And most of us don't know where that originates.
Well, you can also hear maybe breaker, good buddy type communications as well. A lot of truckers now are buying cheap amateur gear and using it as well. Very, very difficult to catch.
We haven't been blessed with that problem.
It happens in California at times.
But is there any FCC interest in that kind of?
If you complain, we'll take an interest. But if we don't hear about it, we can't do anything about it. And the Spanish.
We don't know whether they're drug dealers or they're
It could be migrant workers. It could be construction companies along the border area down in Mexico. It's a fairly free for all down there too when it comes to radio.
Could be radio aficionados. Well, yeah, I've had a Mexican license, but that's not my worry.
Yeah. Well, if you're hearing it up here in Tucson, most likely it's something local.
Yeah, it sounds like.
So, again, you can buy amateur radio gear, $150 per portable or whatever, and go to any flea market. You can find it there anymore. Yes, sir.
A bit off the wall, but about a year and a half ago, there was an issue that in the shortwave listener community was the W6SAN broadcast. I guess originated out of somewhere around the Albuquerque area. Did you guys get involved in anything?
The Albuquerque area is all of New Mexico is taken care of by our Denver office. If the HF net was able to track it down to the Albuquerque area, they may have sent somebody from Denver to deal with it. But 9 times out of 10, they disappear pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that came and went.
Yeah, usually kids. Usually kids, university students. We get FM pirates here occasionally in Tucson. 9 times out of 10, they're from the university somewhere.
How much of a problem is that with pirate broadcast stations? Because you've got that Ramsey Electronics that
right.
makes those.
It depends on the area of the country. San Francisco area has always had a problem. Miami is extremely bad because of all the like the Haitian groups and the Cuban groups, freedom fighters, and whatever else that are there. Right. We 60. They even have a full-time U.S. Attorney's Office staff, one person, one attorney working with the FCC officer in Miami, dealing with pirates. But fortunately, and knock on wood, Arizona has not had much problems. Neither has the San Diego area. They occasionally pop up, maybe 1 or 2 a year there, and we quickly find them, tell them, stop doing this, please, and 9 times out of 10 that works, because it's a $10,000 fine and forfeiture if they don't stop, and we also issue it to anybody who is assisting, like the landlord. If the landlord won't assist us in shutting down the pirate. Well, okay. We assume that you're operating the station too. Here's a $10,000 fine.
Still confiscate all the equipment?
No, not. We find going after issuing a fine a far more effective tool usually. Going after asking the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Marshal Service to assist. Very time consuming, and what do you get? $100 radio.
Yeah, if you confiscate some of that equipment, it might be a good donation to radio clubs.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've got a question. I don't have enough information on this, so I'll let some of my colleagues jump in with this. I've been told that we get occasionally some broadband interference on 2 meters. It works its way from east to west. Maybe Owen or Jim could elaborate on that. And if we do get that again, what can we do about it? Can we report it to your office? Or?
Well, depending on its severity. I mean, if it's only lasting for a few seconds or a few minutes, is it on continuously for days or?
I've got a lot of traffic type stuff.
Pardon me?
Traffic intersections where it looks like they.
Well, again, that's very localized. That's easy to resolve. But if you're talking about something that's blanking the whole community, you maybe need to talk to the Air Force Base. Or Fort Huachuca, yes. Yeah, especially Fort Huachuca, they have special exercises down there from time to time. Any other questions?
Well, how do you handle a complaint that ends up involving the military?
We have a very good rapport, like with the Navy in San Diego. We have special contacts, and we say, this repeater or your mostly it's ships that come into port, and they have beacons and other transmitters that they use out at sea, and they leave them on as they come in, especially on the FAA channels, because they're involved with the aircraft carriers and things like that. And we go down to the harbor area and say it's coming from the USS whatever, and sometimes they'll let us on board, and we'll say to the radio chief, this is operating, can we take a quick check? And we find the transmitter with a red light glowing, and then click, it's off. Yeah, we have very good rapport with the military, but sometimes the ships are ready to be deployed to Iraq or wherever, and they're off the coast, and they're getting ready to leave, so they're testing out all their systems, and they're only up for a day or so. If that's the case, then you tell whoever's complaining that this may only last another day because they're going away. Well, it's 7:45, so.
Thank you very much. Outstanding. And if you didn't hear yet, the raffle prize tonight, I better turn that up a little bit. Raffle prize tonight is a $50 gift certificate to Ham Radio Outlet, so make sure you buy raffle tickets tonight. And let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back with the business part of the meeting. We have some really interesting things to discuss. And also, make sure you sign up the sheet here with your name, call sign, and the other information. Just pass this around. Make sure, before you leave tonight, you're on this list. 10-minute break. There's EGs in there. You can help yourself, and coffee. And we'll start it in 10 minutes.